right, picture this. You're flying over an ancient landscape right at dawn. As the early morning mist parts, or maybe the shifting desert sands blow away in the wind, something incredible begins to emerge. We're talking broken stone columns, buried walls, the completely silent, empty streets of a ruined settlement. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack the mechanics of disappearance. We'll explore the universal and honestly absolutely fascinating phenomenon of vanishing civilizations. Why do great empires fall quiet? How does a bustling metropolis literally become a ghost town? Okay, let's dive into this. Think of this as our ancient parchment map for today's journey. First, we'll look at the cities that vanished. Then, we'll examine those buried in an instant, followed by the great abandonments. After that, we'll explore cities reclaimed by the wild. And finally, we'll wrap up by redefining what it actually means for a city to be lost. Section 1. The cities that vanished, mapping the forgotten. Because, across human history, monumental settlements across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas haven't just grown, they've peaked, flourished, and then seemingly completely vanished from the map. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Buried in an instant, the fate of Pompeii. Imagine a thriving first-century Roman city. You've got bustling streets full of merchants and artisans, gorgeous fresco-covered villas, just a place intensely, vibrantly alive. And then the sky turned completely dark. In the year 79 CE, Mount Vesuvius, that mountain dominating the distant horizon, violently erupted. A massive cloud of ash and volcanic gas shot up, completely blotting out the sun. Volcanic pumice and debris just rained down on the fleeing citizens, burying rooftops, streets, people, the whole shebang in a matter of hours. Pompeii didn't slowly fade away. It was suffocated and sealed away from the world almost instantaneously. What's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast. On one hand, you have the vibrancy of living, breathing Roman streets, and on the other, a silent, eerie preservation left behind by the ash. Because Pompeii was buried so quickly, it was perfectly entombed. Centuries later, when archaeologists began to excavate, they didn't just find ruined foundations. No way. They uncovered remarkably intact ancient objects, vibrant mosaics, and perfectly preserved frescoes. The sheer tragedy of its sudden destruction became the exact thing that preserved its daily life for us to study today. Section 3. The Great Abandonments, a gradual fade. Right, so not all cities meet a sudden cataclysmic end like Pompeii. Some suffer a much quieter fate. They just gradually fade away over time. A perfect example is Mohenjo-daro, an absolute crown jewel of the Bronze Age Indus Valley civilization. So why was Mohenjo-daro abandoned? This is a huge mystery. This wasn't some primitive, temporary camp. This was a remarkably sophisticated city. We're talking carefully planned grid-like streets, advanced mud brick buildings, and incredibly complex ancient drainage systems that rivaled anything else in the ancient world. They had bustling courtyards, workshops, rich trade. So how does a city that advanced just empty out and fall completely silent? Well, looking at these factors, the archaeological community doesn't point to just one definitive cause. It's like a giant puzzle. Evidence suggests a combination of overlapping issues. Environmental change might have made agriculture way harder to sustain. The very river systems that provided life and transport for the city actually began to shift their courses. Plus, there were likely major economic shifts and broader regional transformations drawing the population away. The city wasn't violently destroyed, it was simply left behind as the world around it changed. And this brilliantly illustrates how we see this concept play out across vastly different parts of the world. Take ancient Petra in modern-day Jordan, a major Nabatean crossroads famous for its rock-cut architecture carved straight into the red sandstone cliffs. It was a massive hub for desert caravans. Or Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica, a huge urban center defined by broad ceremonial avenues and towering pyramids. Yet despite their immense wealth and regional power, both of these incredible cities gradually lost their populations as trade routes shifted and local environments became less forgiving. Which brings us to a profound mystery. Who built Teotihuacan, and why did the city decline? Even today, standing before the monumental pyramid of the sun and the moon, we face a delicate balance. We have amazing archaeological excavations that tell us about the layout, the art, even the diet of the people. But the exact political or social reasons for their decline, that remains fiercely debated by scholars to this very day. Section 4. Reclaimed by the wild. Earth and jungle take over. When humans step back, nature steps right in. Let's look at the incredible medieval Southeast Asian center of Angkor. Picture the sensory reality of this for a second. Tropical tree roots slowly crushing ancient stone. Over the centuries, as the enormous Khmer urban landscape and its massive reservoirs saw a decline in population, dense forests simply took over. Creeping jungle vines and massive tree roots wrapped around stone causeways and vast religious monuments. The relentless power of vegetation literally swallowed an empire, giving us that breathtaking, overgrown aesthetic we associate with Angkor today. Now let's transport ourselves high into the Andes Mountains. Imagine the once thriving Inca settlement of Machu Picchu. It used to be full of bustling agricultural terraces, rushing water channels, and complex stone buildings. But after its abandonment, this incredible mountain city fell into a quiet state, entirely hidden from the outside world by rolling mountain clouds and dense, high-altitude vegetation. It simply blended right back into the dramatic peaks. Shifting continents again. Let's look at North America, near the Mississippi River. The number one thing you need to know about the ancient settlement of Cahokia is the sheer scale of it, perfectly represented by Monk's Mound. This massive earthen structure proves that pre-Columbian North America was home to enormous urban centers, featuring large plazas, indigenous communities, and expansive river-based trade networks. Yet, like the others, the Earth eventually reclaimed its footprints when the society dispersed. Section 5. What does lost mean? Redefining the narrative. Let's look at Great Zimbabwe in medieval southern Africa. This was a highly sophisticated regional center known for massive dry stone walls and long-distance trade. But was it ever truly lost? So, the crucial point here is that we have to bust that classic Indiana Jones myth. A lost city isn't necessarily a place that vanished from the face of the earth, completely unknown to every living soul. It's simply a settlement whose global importance declined or transformed over time, often forgotten by international trade networks. But here is the kicker. Places like Great Zimbabwe, Angkor, and Machu Picchu were frequently known to the local populations living right next to them. They were just overlooked by later global societies. Let's walk through our parchment timeline here to map out the true life cycle of a so-called lost city. 1. They rise. 2. They flourish, hitting peak population, architecture, and culture. 3. They transform as changing environments or trade routes shift the game. 4. They are abandoned as global hubs. And 5. They are rediscovered. Today, modern archaeological tools like aerial surveys and remote sensing visualizations are bringing these transformed spaces back into global view, revealing hidden structures right beneath the soil. Ultimately, they never truly disappeared. That is the grand takeaway here. Whether buried by the sudden ash of a volcano, swallowed by the creeping roots of a dense jungle, or just quietly fading into shifting desert sands, the stones, the artifacts, and the sweeping landscapes survived. They waited patiently beneath the earth, holding vital clues to the daily lives, the struggles, and the absolute genius of the people who built them. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As you look at the cities we live in today, our soaring skyscrapers, our concrete highways, our bustling digital hubs, what will future archaeologists uncover about us thousands of years from now? When the Earth eventually reclaims our footprints, what story will our ruins tell? Thank you so much for exploring the mechanics of disappearance with me in this explainer. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, remember to follow Historon1 for more history and facts. See you next time.